Welcome, everybody. Hard Truths number 4, the epic podcast with Salvatore Pais, who is an engineer with the Navy who has patents out there of advanced scientific concepts that we're going to go into today, as well as Dave Rossi, DoD engineer, self-taught genius, as well as two of my favorite people on the entire planet. I can't wait to get into it with you guys here today. So let's just start it up and do it. Sal, we're going to let you start. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. We just want to say right off the bat, and I think I can speak for Brother Rossi, you are our favorite person. Put it this way, without you, the high-frequency gravitational wave generator induced propulsion paper would have never seen the viral. We're talking about what you mentioned, 1.5 million.
Yes.
That's like, whoa, that's the highest I've ever gotten for anything. So God bless you. Thank you, sir. I owe you. But anyway, so let me just give a disclaimer off the bat. Again, I'm Salvatore Pais. I'm, let's call myself for now, a Navy engineer. And I'm here as a private citizen. And any of my opinions, my statements and so forth are mine and mine alone. They're not representative of the United States Navy nor the United States Space Force. That said, also, I would like to ask my brothers in arms over here to make sure that we do not E-cube. In other words, we do not educate or enlighten the enemy in anything we say. That being said, let me just go directly into the Superforce. And this is something I found recently, which totally it boggled my mind. I didn't believe it at first, but I did the math again, and it works out. The Bekenstein-Hawking entropy expression, the formula for it, is on the order of the Boltzmann constant divided by h bar c times the superforce times the black hole surface area. In other words, the area of the event horizon. And I see Brother Rossi smiling because he knows what that means, because it talks directly to the holographic principle. It is the superforce acting on the event horizon that gives rise to the amount of information in the bulk of the black hole. This is a first on your hard truth podcast. This has not been published yet. This is a first. So if anybody publishes this, how should I say, the wrath of God will come down upon them, because the three of us, we are the three amigos, as they say. So put it this way. This shows something very interesting, because the superforce now talks to what? Remember, the Bekenstein-Hawking theory is one of the things that string theory was able to show. I believe that it is possible that the superforce may actually aid in showing that the string theory, we're talking about the string as a vibrational filament of quantum stuff, for lack of a better terminology, but you understand what I'm talking about. So again, string theory may be the final theory, and it may be proven with a superforce. The superforce is essential in eventually possibly driving an experiment that, who knows, possibly Brother Rossi, Ashton, and I will put together down the road. And if we can actually show that string theory is the ultimate final theory. If you remember what the great Weinberg said, you know what this means. We will be the beloved of the academic community forevermore. So this could actually, what I just said right now, could actually may start a third revolution in string theory. The second being the great Witten, of course. Of course, I'm not saying that, how should I say, that I just gave it away. This has a lot of work to do with it, but the superforce must be looked into. Again, the c to the fourth, the c, speed of light to the fourth power divided by big G, is essential, absolutely essential in even determining what? The entropy of a black hole. And remember that this so-called black hole, this quote-unquote portal that is opened up by the orbs that we're going to speak to, is very essential in determining quote-unquote quantum teleportation and the ability. What if for every black hole, there is a white hole? What if every entrance has an exit? It talks to a wormhole, yes, but this is different. And Brother Rossi, I'm pretty sure, has a lot to say about it. But before Brother Rossi goes into certain very important experiments, let me just, I have 3 points to make. I like the number 3, as you well know. Can't help it. It's the Tesla factor. Now, okay, so the first one, I'll touch on the triarchy of sentience. I believe that these orbs, and by the way, we have to speak, Brother Rossi, we have to speak to your fourth orb hypothesis is right on the money.
Thank you.
Right on the money, because you have an XYZ. So in other words, you have the 3 orbs that determine the Cartesian coordinate system XYZ, or R theta phi in spherical coordinates. And you must have a destination. That must be your fourth orb. So anyway, so we'll go there for sure. Now, the triarchy of sentience speaks to the possibility of these orbs being artificial intelligence agents as well. So in other words, not only are they endowed with collision avoidance capability, which is something that most likely was in effect by 2014 for sure, because I remember they were doing work on the U class, the X-47B. They called it, that's when unmanned had class, but I'll just leave it there. Okay, so the triarchy of sentience, again, speaking to the control of these orbs, possible self-control, which is amazing. I mean, these are autonomous units. Once they're engaged, once they basically switched on, they're on their own. And this is what makes them incredibly powerful. Now, again, the triarchy of sentience speaks to this. First, in my opinion, you must have very high level computational power, possibly achieved in a miniaturized system using parallel processing of GPU units, graphical processing units. Remember that these are possibly to be linked in a certain way that could give tremendous power capabilities. Brother Rossi, I love when you smile, because you know, when you smile, that means I'm on point. So thank you. I appreciate that big time. Now,
I'm smiling because I think we're basically saying the same thing. I just don't want to say too much.
Okay. Oh, thank you for that. Right. E cubed. But I never gave numbers. Keep numbers. No frequency spectrums. Nothing. Remember, just keep it general. Keep it in the realm of possibility, conditional possibilities. Now, so the second one speaks to these most likely were trained. These units are based on a multimodal model. So it's not just a large language system. This must have incorporated images, must have incorporated 3D objects, must have incorporated a sound. So these particular orbs, let's call them artificial intelligence agents, most likely have AGI capability. Can you imagine AGI possibility in 2014? Gentlemen, you realize just by extrapolation that we might have, in the black, we must have achieved singularity by now. But anyway, I'm not going to go there. I will not touch that. Now, anyway, woo, hot plate. Now, the third one is big. The third one is big because once you train them on textbook data, which is the second part, the second branch of the triarchy of sentience, you must train these multimodal models on textbook data, highly approved, validated, verified data. This is not internet stuff that you pull from Reddit. This is stuff that you put out of Halliday and Resnick 4th edition, Carbamide's Collective Electrodynamics, The Road to Reality by Lord Roger Penrose. King Charles, hint, hint. Now, so that was the second branch. Once it's trained by textbook data, these multimodal models must have the ability to generate an original concept. That is the third branch. That is a must. If they cannot generate an original concept, which has never never been seen before, not in physical review letters, nor any other great publication, Nature, Science, none. If they come up with an original concept, for example, and I know people will accuse me of great hubris, but say you take Maxwell's equations. I'm not going to go to the superforce, not yet, even though that's, I have a certain, anyway. So once you take Maxwell's equation, you realize just from Faraday's law, the idea of the electric field strength equals C, the speed of light, times B, the magnetic induction, okay? You take that, you couple it to the fourth equation. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Maxwell ampere, displacement current. Now, right? You must come, just those two alone will give you what basically the Pais effect is all about. If that AGI is able to come up with that from just those four equations based on what you fed it, that's it. That has achieved AGI capability. And I'm not calling myself, superhuman or anything like that. I'm just saying you need a breakthrough of that nature to actually be called AGI. You need to originate a highly original concept, never to that point seen before. Okay, so that's the triarchy of sentience. Now, number two, and this is very important, I believe that physical mathematics must drive our current physics, which must not be a physics of destruction, must be a physics of creation. What I mean by physical mathematics, I mean the physics must drive the mathematics, not the other way around. What we currently use is mathematical physics. And yes, the mathematics is beautiful. It's usually, this mathematics is usually, there are four branches that are currently used that are beautiful. And when fused together, give, for example, rise to string theory. One is calculus of variables. Then linear algebra, then group theory, and then differential geometry. And that's the genius of Einstein in general relativity theory, hence the gravitational field equations. So these four branches of mathematics, once combined with the idea, for example, of harmonic oscillator, what is this vibrational filament of quantum stuff, for want of a better terminology? I'm pretty sure people such as Brian Greene, Brian Keating, David Gross, Nima Kanihamen, of course, the great Juan Maldacena, which, by the way, he said something recently that totally took me by surprise. I did not know. It was in conversations in quantum gravity between him and Jacques Armas. Professor Armas of Cambridge University asked Professor Maldacena of the Institute for Advanced Studies at Princeton University. They were talking, there seems to be experiments back in 1968. They were based on trying to find the strong interaction. And there were experiments that actually showed that these physical entities may actually be experimentally solved. And then for some reason, they went somewhat, quote unquote, into the dark. Could it be, ladies and gentlemen, could it be that string theory is the ultimate final theory? And maybe something like the superforce can bring it into, how should I say, maybe we need the greats like Witten, Maldacena, Susskind, I believe his name is Susskind. Sorry, Lenny, Queens guy. Anyway, the whole, he's from Brooklyn, Can you believe the man started as a plumber and now he's one of the greatest we've got? I mean, he's one of the pioneers of string theory. People like that, they should, especially the great Wynne, should engage into seeing whether this superforce concept could actually be incorporated within string theory, eventually leading to experimental verification, because that's all there is. Once string theory is even minimally or indirectly verified, and you could say from the Bekenstein-Hawking entropy equation that it was verified through the discovery of black holes. I mean, it is Sagittarius, a star that basically dictates the whole, right? H bar divided, sorry, the Boltzmann constant, K sub B divided by H bar C, which is that factor, believe it or not, gentlemen and ladies, that factor is on the order of 100. So you can just eliminate, you know, gently nudge it out of the way, because what comes, the superforce acting on the event horizon surface area. Again, the genius of Maldacena. Yes, ADS equals CFT. I was completely wrong by saying certain things in the past. I did not understand. The holographic principle is key, because it shows that the information within the bulk actually resides on the event horizon surface area. But what brings it into the forefront, what makes it talk, is the superforce. That's what leads to the amount of goodness gracious. Sometimes I wish I had all the terminologies in the world. Sometimes I'm lost for words. I apologize. But the whole idea is this. Look, what the Bekenstein-Hawking, it's funny because it's BH, and that's the way I remember it. So the entropy of BH, you know, BH as in black hole. That's interesting. Okay, so the Hawking, the Bekenstein-Hawking equation speaks to the amount of information that's within that bulk of the black hole, which is really what? And Brother Rossi knows this well. What is this? It's basically the arrangement of microstates into the macro state that is representative of the structure. We are talking here, it could be that the superforce will one day prove string theory as the ultimate final theory of physics, a theory of everything. String theory. So from people giving up, maybe they will once again revitalize this. I think the geniuses of Maldacena, Witten, others, David Gross, oh my God, Frank Wilczek, bring in Wilczek, oh my God, bring in Wilczek. Wilczek will, between the four of them, I mean, if they can't figure it out, you know what I'm saying? But they will. I mean, these are four of the greatest we've got. And of course, Brian Greene. He has some very interesting ideas. You have to see some of the podcasts. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so that was the second point. Okay, eventually, I'm pretty sure, hopefully, Brother Ashton will have Brother Rossi and I again sometime, and then you'll hear some more crazy stuff. Now, anyway, so the third point is vacuum breakdown. And doctor, hey, I said doctor, that means I think of you as a doctor. So you know what? Dr. Rossi. All right, so Dr. Rossi, no, I mean it. Hey, I have a PhD, supposedly, according to academic criteria, I have the right, well, once I've achieved a certain level of professional ability, which I think, shit, sorry, I did not.
When you're Ashton, when you're done, Sal, Ashton, if you can give me a couple minutes, I want to stand on the shoulders of what Sal is saying before we go to the videos.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we will.
Okay, so the third point is vacuum breakdown. How do these four, actually, it's very interesting because I've been thinking, how does the fourth orb know exactly where that white hole is to be formed? Because that speaks exactly to how this wormhole is being formed. The fourth orb hypothesis is essential to all this. There must be a fourth orb. Otherwise, God forbid, MH370 will never materialize on the other side. You know what I'm talking about, right, Dr. Rossi? Okay, so no, from now on, I'm not kidding. I'm addressing you as Dr. Rossi.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're saving me words. And I tell you, sometimes I'm lost for words. And like brother, sometimes I call brother actually, you know, Dr. Rossi. There you go. Sometimes I'll go into Brother Rossi. But okay, so the third point, vacuum breakdown. What are these orbs doing? They're depositing great amounts of energy around them, because we have to discuss the nature of plasma. Plasma may not just be the fourth state of matter as we understand it. You have to go back to origins. Who coined it? Irving Langmuir, in 1932, Nobel Prize winner. Why did he call it plasma? Because it reminded him so much of what? of blood. He believed that these could be actually capable of life. And I know a lot of people say, oh, he's gone off the deep end, but no, look into the work of Hans Alfvén. Hans Alfvén, the father of magnetohydrodynamics, wrote, I believe it was called Cosmic Plasma. It was in the oh, goodness gracious. Sometimes I wish I had another head, but okay. It was in Astrophysics and Space Science, volume 82. I think published in 1981. So again, Astrophysics and Space Science, I believe, volume 82. Hans Alfvén called it the monograph, or whatever you want to call it. It was called Cosmic Plasma. And in it, Alfvén speaks to plasma not only being capable of action, but intention. Intention, gentlemen. This is a theory of consciousness. This is sentience. These could actually be a type of life form. Could you imagine? Not only capable of AGI, but a life form. This would totally break the understanding of academic physics as we now understand. Again, I strongly believe that we are in the infantile stages of physics. We may be a 2 or 3 or 4 months old tops. We're definitely not octogenarians, and hopefully we'll never meet with Dr. Kissinger's end, because he did achieve that end at 100 years. So when physics is of 100 years old, then it has a right to, how should I say, bring in new physics. Until then, we are talking about new perspectives on old physics. Because after all, we're very young. Okay, I've said enough. Of course, the third principle of vacuum breakdown speaks to the Schwinger limit, and we've already spoken to this. So Brother Rossi has covered that. I covered it with Ashton in number 1. So anyway, yeah, you've had enough of that stuff. It's called the Pais effect. Okay, never mind. Okay, sorry, Brother Ashton. The floor is yours.
I'm going to pass it to Brother Rossi here in just a minute. I just want to address a couple of things that you said there, because I heard a lot of really amazing stuff. One, AGI, the way I understand it, it's advanced artificial intelligence that can basically get to a point where it achieves a singularity and becomes sentient in itself. And that, that's something that I'm very interested in learning more about. I also heard, I think, which was essentially a unification theory of physics and consciousness, which I'm also very interested in as well. When you start talking about plasma getting getting more and more complex to the point where it obtains consciousness, because the universe, in my opinion, is alive. We may be part of a larger organism to some degree.
I agree 100%.
And then the last thing I think I heard there was that we are still cavemen. I think that we have this hubris amongst us as humans, where we think we are at the pinnacle of civilization and science, where we're really at infancy state. We can get so much more advanced than where we are right now.
Excuse my language, but I sometimes think we're a bunch of apes clanking rocks. Sometimes, yes. Sorry for the language, playing with our balls and calling it magic.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, Dave Rossi and I on his podcast were actually talking about this just the other day, so I can't wait for that to come out publicly. And go ahead, Dave. The floor is yours, sir.
Sure. Thank you. So I just wanted to say that this is something that I've been writing down as Sal was speaking. A beautiful intro, by the way, Sal. And this is for Ashton, of course, yourself and your lovely audience, because I know a lot of people I noticed in your audience, Ashton, they want to learn. And so that's amazing. So I'm not claiming here to know everything. Anyone who does, in my opinion, is full of crap. But a couple of things I wanted to stand on brother Sal's shoulder on, which is that, again, without giving specifics, a lot of what Sal has been discussing seems to be supported by what's called Bohmian coherence and decoherence that Carlo Rovelli has avidly looked into. And I fully agree with you on the black hole, white hole side of things, largely because of Carlo Rovelli's work, Sal. The other thing that's very interesting in terms of, we could say many decades ago, literature that seems to have been suppressed is that Halpern and Laurent in the 1960s had a couple of papers that basically were titled The Gravitational Radiation of Microscopic Systems. And interestingly enough, it was deemed by certain institutions that I won't say the names of, we know them very well today, the the attempt to even take it to an experimental stage was deemed not feasible. So it just makes you think, why are there certain, yes men or no men saying what can or can't be experimented on? That's another thing. The one thing also I want to point out too is that I encourage your audience, Ashton, to, when we bring these concepts up, whether it's Brother Sal or myself, or even yourself, Ashton, one of the things I found in my self-learning journey is that you need, even though it may be difficult, you have to go back to the actual authors who wrote the paper, not what someone wrote about the paper, because then that's where a lot of things get fuzzy. You have to go, for example, to the original
origins.
Right. Exactly. There are a lot of things in the, for example, I'm just going to, Sal, I think you know what I'm going to say here, but there's a lot of people that don't know what the source charge problem is, for example. I'm going to leave that there.
Dr. Rossi, you are a remarkable man, I must say. Truly remarkable. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. If you ever tell me that you weren't able to publish in physical review letters, I will take apart that freaking journal. As much as I love it, as much I would love to publish in it. I will make sure that certain things are done to it. Period.
Okay. I appreciate. I'm very grateful, Sal. The other thing I wanted to clarify as well, very quickly, is that just to respectfully say, Ashton, I'm not a DoD engineer. I'm a contractor / consultant, just to be clear. So I'm not employed by the DoD. I would just like to clarify for anyone that may have any misunderstandings there. The other thing that's very interesting is that Feynman said something that's very interesting, which is that when charging a capacitor, the actual energy is seen on the edges of the gaps and not from where you're charging it from, which goes back to what Brother Sal was saying about this quantum vacuum. If nothing is there, then how is the electricity coming on the edges of the, oh, hey, there we go, the superforce, exactly. How is the electricity coming in through the edges and it's not coming from the part where you're charging it? Clearly, there might be a sort of kinetic friction going on there. Now, the final thing I want to say with regards to the fourth orb that I brought up, which in my opinion, sort of completes a quadrupole system, is, and please tell me, Sal, if you think I'm wrong with what I'm about to say here, but to give a visual for everybody, what I envision in my mind is the three orbs circling the plane, and what happens is, the same way you stretch an elastic band, you have a fourth orb there, and the second that the superforce and Pais effect occurs, it's the same way of letting go of the elastic and then it shoots back to the original point. It's basically stretching and expanding space in that sense. So we keep one orb here, three orbs go to the plane. Once everything is locked in, let it go, boom, it's there. That's...
And not only that, think trajectory. Truly,
right.
What we're seeing a trajectory through a black hole, or quote unquote portal, even though I choose black hole because I truly believe every black hole has a white hole. There are no such thing as space-time singularities. I apologize to Lord Penrose. That's the only thing that I will disagree with him on. The man is amazing. My God, spinners, twisters. Oh,
yeah.
Anyway, now basically, okay. So the point of origin is described by what? A Cartesian system. X, Y, Z, say in spherical coordinates would be r, theta, phi, right?
Right.
Your point of destination where you're sending this thing has to be 1 point. That's all you need is 1 point. So hence this fourth orb must be there. It really is. It needs no more explanation than that, even though your explanation of the rubber, I love that. I absolutely love it. That sounds like something that Rovelli would love to. Okay.
Oh, wow. I appreciate that. That's
well, he's a great philosopher. Have you heard him? Have you?
Not too much, but I can tell through his papers.
Philosophy of physics is beautiful. Truly beautiful.
I think, well, if I could say as well, from a philosophical sense, Sal, I think your eloquent description of the superforce shows that the limited aspect of the superforce, once the vacuum is opened up, gives rise to the limitless. So you have this vast sort of, the Dirac sea, as it's been called. And the other thing I wanted to mention for your audience, Ashton, and the reason I'm not going into describing all of these things is because we can spend hours just on one of the terms I brought up. But
like 5 years.
For those interested, the Sagnac effect, SAGNAC, the Sagnac effect in certain conditions is an example of absolute rotation. And what I mean by absolute rotation is, again, arguably creating a sort of bubble or void around you that voids reality or the space-time metric. And this is why, in my opinion, as well, when people see craft and on their cameras, it's very blurry and things like that, they're just seeing the flat intersection because you were not seeing from the external observer point a 3 spatial dimension and 1 time dimension that the occupants in the craft are seeing, which is why I'd love to give a quick thought experiment, which is when people see craft, for example, in a certain spot, how many stories where people have heard, oh my gosh, the craft was there for 6 hours and it was just moving just a little bit here, just a little bit there. What if, I'm not saying this is what it always is, right? But what if the occupants inside the craft are sort of like playing through a movie reel, different points in time in the same space? But from the external observer's point of view, time is just linear, so they don't see it. They're just like, what, the craft has been there for 6 hours. But on the inside,
what is time?
Right.
Dr. Rossi, I want to ask you, would you say time may be, how should I say, an energetic property of nature, which basically makes it in such a way that everything doesn't happen at once? How would you define time yourself? Would you say physical time is real? It's not just something that's measured by clocks, but very real.
100%. Here's the thing. There's a lot of stuff I want to say, but maybe after the stream, Sal, because I know basically, if the best example.
I think the study of time is tremendously important.
Well, one example for your audience,
time crystals?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And you know what it talks to. It's interesting how all of a sudden Professor Wilczek is not in the public eye anymore.
Barium titanate.
Yeah, let me just
the way so basically for Ashton's audience, the best way I visualize time, for those that may have seen the film Tenet by Christopher, dealing with entropy. So the way I sort of visualize it without getting into the numbers and all of that is, all around us right now, there are these longitudinal waves that are there, but they're also not at the same time. Now, each time we do something, there's sort of it's kind of like a long slinky. Now, every time I pick up my pen and put it down, one loop has been completed, sort of like a film reel. And then you move on to the next one. And that these loops, like film reels, are moving like up, and it's hard to, that's the best way I can do it without giving away E-cube things, if you know what I mean. So,
you know what really gets me? Stargate, the movie. The way they open up, the way it actually shows what looks to be a watery effect, remember?
Yes.
My goodness, whoever advised for that movie knew something.
Did you see that guy in Arizona open that portal allegedly on Fox News?
No.
Okay.
I saw.
But I just remember, it's just fascinating how close the movie Stargate is to the truth of exactly what would happen if such a portal was open. Anyway.
It makes you think, because even, for example, it speaks to the possibility that there are anti-versions of us, if that makes sense, and all of these different, it gets interesting. But anyways, Ashton, I said all my little pieces and parts, and this can go in 100 different directions. So wherever you'd like to take it, brother.
So I think I want to start by saying that, I want to shout out to Roy D. Herbert, who has this time dilation theory out there. We were just talking about, or dilation theory is what it's called, right? And, the big thing there is that time's a fluid symmetry, and time flows differently depending on how much mass you're near. Right. And so I just want to reiterate there for people, because I think not a lot of people understand that time dilation is a real concept and a real proven thing that's out there. So when you guys are talking about time going slower, faster for the observer versus the occupant, this is all real concepts that have already been proven.
Can I bring something up actually quickly?
Go for it.
Ashton, there have been cases of senescence. And what I mean by that is there have been investigators that have seen that when a craft is close to some plants in a garden and the craft takes off, the investigators approach the plants, and the plants have aged 3 years in 2 minutes. And that speaks to acceleration. That speaks to
Dr. Rossi, let me bring it to something. There are a lot of people that may disagree with my statement. But there's great geniuses in a certain man that is not of a, he is a doctor, but he's not of what I would call a physics pedigree. But if it wasn't for this man, I would have never known of Gabriel Krohn. I would have possibly not even, yes, and I believe he knows Eric Dollard as well. But anyway, I would have
Huh.
not really knew about Charles Proteus Steinmetz. I would have not known of some very, very great people. His name is Joseph P. Farrell. I believe Farrell, maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
Joseph Farrell. He writes a book called Secrets of the Unified Field that I would like every one of your audience to look into. He has a latest book called The Demon in the Ekur. I believe the pronunciation is Ekur because it's Sumerian.
Mm.
Supposedly, this was the gathering place of the seven gods of Sumer, the Anunnaki, the children of heaven and earth. But anyway, I will not bring it there. Just look into what Dr. Joseph Farrell, I believe, has to say about plasma. It is extremely important because it talks to the orbs. These orbs may not just be featuring AGI, but they may actually be some form of sentient life form. Yeah.
Yeah, the line gets pretty blurred, right? And when we start to figure out what even is sentience at that point. So I appreciate you guys in this intro kind of going through a lot of these scientific concepts, especially for our academics who are following along. And then, I've just been trying to break it down for our laymen who are out there as well, like me. And I think it's just been mind blowing. I also just want to touch quickly on the holographic principle, that the idea that all of this is only possible because our universe is a construct of sorts, and that the science then supports this idea of there being this construct of this holographic
If I could say quickly,
Please.
construct that can be perhaps infolded and outfolded, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Why not both? A hybrid of the two.
Right.
Remember the great line from Ando? Oh, I love this line. Oh, please indulge me, Ashton. I've always
go for
wanted
it.
to see.
Go for it.
If a certain Jack Sarfati is known as a wolfman to certain physics circle, then I'm a hybrid, half lichen, half vampire, but stronger than both.
That's
I always wanted to say that. Thank you. I
like that movie. I'm going to throw another quote out here too from something you said early on, Sal, which you just reminded me, which is this quote that first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then they build monuments to you guys. So, we're somewhere in the middle at this point, and we're working our way towards it.
Ashton, to you, a Pulitzer Prize will not only be given, will have to be given, but I tell you, you really have the tenacity and perspicacity of a Sherlock Holmes combined with a patience and perseverance of a St. Augustine. And why St. Augustine? Because I love what he had to say about time. It's all about that. So, sir, we salute you. Both Dr. Rossi and I salute you.
Thank you very much.
I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it.
I tell you, I could not put up with some of your detractors.
Yeah.
And I will not name names. I've seen certain things that really, truly pissed me off. And we're talking about Sarfati kind of pissed me off type. But
right.
I won't say that more than that. Not everybody's an idiot. Okay, I'll leave it there.
Yeah. And if you're talking about St. Augustine, I'm just going to go ahead and quote that one of his quotes is that God is love. Something to keep in mind, and love is God. So,
Yes.
This all kind of comes together in maybe that's a little bit of a sappy way, but I think that it's important that we treat one another with respect and dignity.
Yes.
I think it brings up the question, which is, if we were to quickly circle it back to these orbs, if they're having some type of plasma deployed around them, perhaps, or, a Bose-Einstein condensate or something like this, is it possible perhaps that they are interacting with we could say the Dirac sea of the quantum vacuum that transmits information from the non-material to the material and is expressed through the actions of the orbs, which then makes one think, holy crap, is this alive, so to speak? And yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yes. Yes.
So you want to go look at your scientific experiments first?
Sure,
Dave?
sure. Yeah. I want to, while Ashton's pulling it up, I just want to be clear to Brother Sal and to the audience as well. What we are seeing here is not anti-gravity. I want to be very clear. It's a form of magnetohydrodynamics using a superconductor. And Ashton, brother, before you play it, if you could just let me break down what we're seeing before we play it.
Sure, go for it.
To give everyone Just want to make sure, is it everyone can see it?
Oh yeah, I'm pulling it up right
Okay.
now. So I
Perfect.
think, oops.
Thank you. Okay, so very simple. What we have on the is a bowl, just a, like from the kitchen, an aluminum bowl that has inside of it a superconductor with a magnet in its Meissner state above it, filled with liquid nitrogen, and that's it. Now, the bowl with the white wire is connected to a high voltage DC generator, and then it connects back with the red wire to an electrode that creates a spark gap that we pulse the bowl with. Now, we pulse the bowl, and then at the below the bowl is an electromagnet. We pulse the bowl with high voltage first, and then we pulse the electromagnet, and we're going to see the effect that we'll see in a moment. If you could play it, brother.
Yeah, this looks pretty awesome. It looks like something that you get a knock on the door if you do this without permission. Just my layman's.
I'm not going to get into specific. I want to say very quickly that for those looking to replicate, you do need a specific type of, how can I put it, superconductor geometry, and I'm not going to reveal that detail.
When I get to ECube, when I hear to enlighten or in any way educate the enemy.
Right. Yeah. So when the electromagnet is then pulsed, we'll see in a second.
Wow.
There's instant.
Now this is liquid hydrogen?
Like liquid nitrogen in the bowl, yeah.
You can see it's over here now. This thing's gone flying.
Yeah.
So is the idea behind this that we are seeing another mechanism of potential propulsion here that we're able to create by this force that is being exerted?
Precisely, yes. My calculations have shown, for example, that this type of propulsion can get us to, for example, certain planets within days instead of months or years.
Do you see what I mean by far from equilibrium phenomena? This is highly nonlinear. This is what you were talking about, the secondary effect. It's all about far from. Listen to me. I have a feeling the trick here is the engineering of the Prigogine effect. And it's not easy. It is not, again, plasma will not be subdued. It will not be coerced. It's extremely hard to deal with.
Right.
Plasma has a mind of its own, period.
Yes. Actually, one of the things that I unfortunately, for the sake of E cubed, will not be showing publicly is it's interesting.
No numbers,
No. Yeah, it's interesting to see if one implemented plasma into the setup, what happens. So I'll just leave it there. But yeah.
Especially a cold plasma, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying that. Yeah.
Right. Anyway,
this is really cool. You can actually see it
it's very
here.
My idea with this was very simple, very basic, kind of like the Aronoff-Bohm effect. It can very simple. It's not some fancy, you got all these things going on, and just perhaps to show a second order effect. Now, this is again same concept where it's the superconductor is pulsed, and we'll see in this particular case just a slow motion version of the instant liftoff.
Yeah, I love this slow motion one. It goes backwards as well.
Definitely
here.
The Meissner effect. This is not Lenz. This is Meissner.
Right. Yep.
Definitely. But notice how it's almost instantaneous and it doesn't persist. It's a transient phenomenon based on that particular. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yep. Right. So one of the reasons I wanted to show these videos to your lovely audience, Ashton, is because I just want to show how can I put it? I want to encourage people to see that the simplicity is really the complexity is in the simplicity, but at the same time, for various genuine national security and other reasons, I can't go past this point. But this
do just not mention the material. Do not mention anything else, please. Thank you.
Nope. No problem.
Got you, sir.
Yeah, and I'm not a spy. None of us are spies here. We all love our countries and all of that stuff in general. So, but we also just love science, right? And I think we all believe that the science behind this should be made available to the public because for various reasons, but because it can change our world for the better.
This is the physics of creation, not the physics of destruction. What Dr. Rossi has just shown is exactly that case in point. And again, it actually shows, I'm sorry, brother Ashton, to just jump in like this, but I got to say this. In my opinion, the most complex of problems has the simplest of solutions.
Yes.
Depending on perspective. The hardest of problems has the simplest of solutions depending on perspective. But it
Yes.
is important. It is important to do away with the box, obliterate the box. This
Right.
thinking outside the box should not, again, open system. Just leave it there.
Yes, if you remember, Brother Sal, when I brought up on Brother Ashton's show, open Pac-Man's mouth, basically.
Right. I love that analogy. That's very good. Very
Thank
good.
you. Well, Ashton, brother, thank you for showing that. Hopefully it motivates some people in your audience to see that it doesn't. Sometimes it becomes so easy to bridge from theory to practicality if you take a different perspective on 1800s physics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the other
Yes.
thing I think both you guys say that there was somebody in the space I did yesterday when I was doing all review that, couldn't believe that all this is true because it goes against everything they've been taught from academia. Some people say
Yeah.
this breaks their laws of physics. It does not break the laws of physics. We are taking the building blocks. Science is a matter of continuous learning and advancing on what we knew before and, kind of changing our understanding of it. And that's where I think we're looking at here is we're taking the old physics and we're looking at it with a new approach, with a fresh set of eyes. And that's how we can achieve what we're achieving here in these experiments, what both Brother Sal and Rossi are talking about, as well as potentially what we're going to be looking at here in the MH370 videos.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
So people are calling me now Ashton 4 Orbs, and to be honest with you, I love it. So please, everybody, if you want to keep calling me Ashton 4 Orbs, I really like it.
Ashton,
go ahead.
Like I said, Ashton, I'm not a betting man. I don't gamble, but if I were to bet money, I would bet big money there was a fourth orb in that operation.
My instinct, and I tell you, very few times the only time in my life that I didn't listen to my physical instinct and I went really wrong. My instinct tells me you're 100% on the money. There is a fourth orb. This is not a hypothesis. This is the real deal. Yeah. So yes, Ashton 4 orbs. I love it. Oh, let me just discuss a little bit that black hole that you see. You call it a portal. I call it the black hole. And it also talks, if you see carefully, there's like a refraction wave into the soup. Remember Carson Wang? The idea, the way he describes that we most likely are living in a superfluid universe. Well, if you were that second ring around the black hole is like a refraction wave into the superfluid.
Which is why it makes you think.
Once you do away with the atmosphere, what you have is that superfluid that defines the quantum vacuum that you and I talked to.
It makes you think.
Look at the black hole carefully.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dr. Rossi. I'm sorry, Ashton, but I got to talk to this before I forget. Remember, I'm of a certain age. If you know what I mean? That certain level of senility kicking in, and I try to do away. I drink espresso like some people drink water. Espresso. And I'm not talking about I'm talking about dopium. But anyway, so yeah, I know.
I can't wait to have coffee with you guys. It's gonna be great. We'll have some dopios.
Oh, it's gonna be epic. If you ever visit, where, I'm not gonna mention. We gotta go to this place. Oh my God, they give you. They actually, like certain people don't give you the espresso in those little ceramic cups, you hold with the 2 rings. Oh my God. They still have that. And it is, you have to smell it before you drink it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking to an Italian, Sal, you're talking to an Italian. You should see my grandma.
Hey, I mean, right. Anyway, okay, so that black hole, it speaks directly to the temperatures. Okay, remember the genius of Hawking. The idea, think what a black hole is a structure, a space-time structure. It resides at the intersection of quantum field theory, general relativity, and thermodynamics. And this was the genius of Hawking. He actually came up, the formula is H bar C cubed, because that's how the superforce eventually comes in. H bar C cubed divided by 8 pi big G times the mass of whatever creates this black hole. So for example, a solar mass, say a solar mass black hole, will give you a temperature on the order of 10 to the minus 7 degrees Kelvin. So we're talking about, again, the CMB, the so-called cosmic microwave background is on the order of what, 2.7 degrees Kelvin. So
I think, yeah.
2.7 above absolute zero. That if you were to basically put the mass of this aircraft, just take that mass, put it in that formula. It'd be like on the order of what, 10 to the minus 3 degrees Kelvin, 10 to the minus 4, something of that nature. I'm pretty sure your audience can check me. Remember the formula. It's H bar CQ divided by 8 pi big G times that mass. Okay, that's the genius. That's the temperature that.
Sal, sorry, times the mass or the mass density. Sorry.
It's on the bottom in the denominator. It's 8 pi big G mass. The mass.
Okay.
The mass most likely in kilograms, because if you look at the units, right?
Yeah.
H bar is what? Is on the order of 10 to the minus 34 joule seconds, because it's really we talk about quantum of action.
Right.
That's what H bar is all about. It's a reduced quantum of action. But it's got like 6.3 times 10 to the minus 34. But if you do the reduced, it's got 2 pi on the bottom. So bam, right? So you get 10 to the minus 34 joule seconds on the top. And you do the math on the C cube. Anyway, the idea being that this is in between CMB and on the order of 10 to the minus 3 Kelvin. That's why you see that that incredible intrinsic blackness. Because this thing is extremely cold. It's cold as Babalu.
It makes you think as well, to Ashton and to Brother Ashton and your audience, brother. It makes you think from the perspective of scaling and fractals. What if perhaps these things we see are inducing effects that are miniature versions of what we may be within, perhaps? This is just speculation, just a thought experiment, but it speaks to this idea that perhaps, again, these are smaller versions, the same way that these flat space-time models are subsets of higher models, arguably. We have to wonder, is it possible that when we scale this up, the superforce can then be tapped and do things way more than what we see here, actually? But
say no more. Just one thing to add, and nothing else after that, because I have a feeling that we're about to give numbers, and numbers are not required.
Right.
But what if, from a general physics perspective, what if there's a way to nudge the superforce at a different scale than the Planck scale? Look carefully at slide 8 in that AIAA SciTech 2019 that Ashton has on the MH370 board. Look carefully at that AIAA presentation. Slide 8 talks to something called solving the vacuum catastrophe.
There's something I want to say, but I'm not going to say it. So, yeah. So I'm completely with you, Sal, by the way, completely. Yeah.
And you guys didn't see this earlier, but I was posting the flight path, the MH370X proposed flight path. And I think it's very interesting that we've come to similar conclusions. I just lost it now, but I had it up a second ago. And that flight path we can see in these videos, actually, it looks like in the final frame when the zap begins to happen, the plane actually moves backwards a little bit. And
I got to talk to the zap. We got to talk to the zap, because we talk about accretion disk. Remember black holes? Yes. Everybody's saying, how come you know, in the thermograph, you're seeing totally black, but in the other one, in the real image, you're seeing this tremendous flash of light.
Yes.
Accretion disk. Look at black hole thermodynamics. Come on. Okay. I'll leave it there. I'm sorry. So I get a little, you know.
Yeah. Are you speaking to Hawking radiation, or are you speaking to just the accretion disk around a black hole when you say that? Because I was actually going to ask why you think there's a flash.
Neg entropy, perhaps, as well.
That's possible as well.
Yeah.
So a couple possible reasons. And I was going to try to pull it back up again, but
if we think one last thing, if we think of the quantum vacuums as sort of like a negative resistor, perhaps these effects on a grander scale would explain that, perhaps.
Right. Yeah. It's possible.
Yeah, and I was showing the chat as well, our proposed route. You guys can't see it at the moment, but it's interesting because in the zap, right as it occurs, and I'll go to the slow-mo here as well so that you guys can see it a little bit better. You can actually see that the plane seems to move backwards a little bit. which I think would go to the point that you guys, here's one. You can see this. This is the plane here, but look at it. It's getting sucked backwards. If you do the overlay over it, you can see it being pulled backwards slightly, which could indicate that maybe the fourth orb is in the direction of travel that's backwards, where it's being pulled back, just as you would like that slingshot that you guys were just
elastic band,
right? So that's interesting because we've got this flight path that I'm pulling up that is currently overlaid over the screen on my stream. And if this plane's going to the east and this plane's getting pulled back, then it would be getting sucked back towards the west, which actually puts it over here in the Indian Ocean, which I'm not going to speak to exactly where this is, but this happens to be near a location where we think the plane might have gone. So that's just very interesting theory for our people in the chat, people who are our investigators out there that are looking into this. So let's speak a little bit more about the orbs, because I think the orbs are the most interesting part about these videos. I mean, obviously, Zap is very interesting.
If I could say one more thing before we go into the orbs, I say this very serious, but also in a joking way. Brother Sal, we have to find a way one day at some point to get in a lab together or something.
Absolutely, we must. But it has to be done in such a way that maybe through a crowd or something. We need the higher ups. In the Navy, in the whatever. It doesn't have to be just the DoD. It could be the intelligence community realizing that we know what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
And bringing us in as a think tank.
Right.
Because I'll tell you right off the bat, brother, what I think is coming, and I will not go into politics, but I'm also a student of history.
Right.
Okay. And I think what is coming is very, very, very almost surreal. Things that you could not imagine the United States going through, I think will happen to the United States. And I am very afraid that our enemies are forming, as we now are having this beautiful gathering of the minds. They're forming an unholy alliance.
Right.
Let's just leave it at that. But
does this have to do? I'll leave it very vague here. Does this have to do with an event starting with the letter A?
I will give absolutely no clues as to what I have in mind. My thoughts, Brother Rossi, I know you and I and Brother Ashton, we think alike in many ways. You know what I'm alluding to.
Yeah, okay. So I got you.
Vibrates on a certain frequency.
I got you. No, without even words,
it's scary, brothers. It's scary because these people have us in the crosshair, and I do not understand the hatred.
Yeah.
How can you hate this much? We all Homo sapiens sapien. That's another thing that, excuse my language, pisses me to no end. Why must this be ET tech? Are you saying that Homo sapiens sapien is not capable of such grandeur of thought? No.
Actually,
we are the skillcraft of Enki. And if you go back to Sumerian times, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The skillcraft of Enki has certain creativity, inventive purpose in mind. We are capable of such things and maybe even grander. So please, enough with the ET tech.
It's funny you say.
Said. So
it's funny what you say, why you say this, Sal, because I was saying to Ashton just yesterday that, in my opinion, when Tucker Carlson a few nights ago did that big premiere about UFOs, I would have preferred he laid out the different options. Maybe some of it's ours, maybe some of it's not, but not to take a jab at him, but he seemed to be very sure that it's not ours. And that's why I'm saying we have to watch, because I would make a bet humbly that some of it is.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in as well, not only did I think the same thing as Brother Rossi here about the Tucker piece with Burchett, I also had posted a piece from Matt Gaetz from these UAP hearings, and he posted the same clip just a few days ago. And the part that astonished me was he said, this is clearly non-human technology. And I'm just looking at it, going, not according to my evidence, not according to the people I've been talking to. That scared me because it told me that Congress is completely in the dark about what's going on. Matt Gaetz was the one that's saying, I'm the only person who's seen this. And I'm going, okay, well, then nobody really gets the implications here of what we have going on.
I think people have underappreciated how much progress has been made and how little the public has been shown that progress.
Exactly. I think that's why I think that we need to form a new alliance, right? An alliance of people of the minds like we have here that can fight back against the tyranny and oppression that's trying to hold us back. that we can get this information out, get it to our lawmakers who seem to be completely in the dark about it. I don't think personally we need more UAP hearings. I think we need conspiracy hearings into the people that are hiding this information from us. And we need to get it out in a way, to Sal's point, that is safe, that is going to not lead to the ruin that I think that, ultimately that's the conclusion that I am coming to in my mind. We need to come to a way where we use it for the good, and where we can set boundaries and regulations.
For the good of humanity as a whole, not just weaponizing this technology to the destruction of Earth. That will not benefit any of us. We either unification, not polarization. That is the only way to save this godly nation.
I agree.
Unification, not polarization. We must come together, otherwise we shall perish apart. Period.
Right.
Agreed. So, and frame of that, I want to talk a little bit more about the videos, and then we can kind of philosophize a little bit more if you guys want.
Absolutely.
But I have questions for you guys that I want to ask, and I want to understand better. So, some people in the chat actually are mentioning they think that these orbs have 2 toroids per orb in them. So, a toroid is this donut-shaped, very kind of continuous, like donut within a donut type of shape. And I'm just curious if you guys agree with that, or how you would explain the toroidal moments.
Could they be counter-rotating?
They are you can tell me.
Oh, but... Dr. Rossi, did I hit on something? Anyway, never mind.
Please go ahead and elaborate for us, because I think somebody mentioned that they're spinning counterclockwise.
I will let Professor Rossi discuss. He knows what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh, Sal, you killed me.
To spin counterclockwise.
Now, because I want to say something,
Brother, as far as I'm concerned, you and I are no different. You and I are of the same pedigree. Why? Because we vibrate on the same frequency. We understand each other. The 3 of us are truly, put it this way, all for one, one for all. Remember?
Right. Quantum coherence.
The victim of the Musketeers, Alexandre Dumas, was a totally creative genius and a great man of philosophy, because he understood Hermetic principle. All is one, one is all.
Right.
Without this belief, everything goes to shit.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. Beautifully said. To answer your question, or the audience's question, Ashton, I'll be honest. I don't mean to be so, maybe this, maybe that, but I would be certain there's toroidal geometries occurring. Now, I don't want to say that I know more about it unless I had a look at one of them, like in the lab or something. So I don't want to say I know for sure. There are things I'm sure of conceptually, but I don't know how those particular orbs were engineered. So it's a little difficult for me to say. I'm certain toroids are involved.
Counter rotating toroidals is something that I heard. I'm just gonna keep that in back of my mind.
What do you think? I'm sorry, Brother Ashton. Sometimes I will do that, and please forgive me. I truly, but I have this tendency, and they told me at work too, you got to stop interrupting. I have a bad tendency, and I'm going to try to do better. But I got to get this again, senility setting in, so I got to get it out before I forget it.
No
now,
problem.
The whole idea, do you remember how these orbs, right before the event occurs, right before that black hole opens up, portal, whatnot, teleportation portal, right before then, the probe, the orbs start doing what? They pulsate the medium around the craft.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so you mean when they're ringing,
I'm alluding to.
When they're spinning around it in a ring formation?
Don't take it further. Yeah.
Okay.
No need
I'm trying to, sorry, Ashton, when I go like this,
vacuum breakdown.
Yes, when I go like this, Ashton, it's basically me trying to find ways to describe it without giving away any trade secrets, basically. But
and if we ever meet and do, you guys ever do that meetup where in the lab, I'd love to be a conscientious observer, even if I have to sign an NDA. I might be willing to do it.
Eventually we have to meet, but we'll have to be careful. It will have to be a skiff of some sort. I know everybody. Look, I like Grush a lot. I think what he's been putting up with is absolutely, again, let's not forget Elizondo, what he has been going through. I mean, these are people that one day will be called heroes, but until that point, they will be called what they're called today.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is the way we are. That's the way of humanity. It's exactly what Brother Ashton was saying earlier. First, they will call you a crackpot.
Yeah.
Then they will, and eventually they will say that was their idea all along.
It's true.
Anyway,
It's true.
So let me
It's
see.
it's like in the movie very quickly, like in I think it was Ford versus Ferrari, where the CEO of
great
Ford, or
movie.
one of the big financial backers, he
Good one.
leaves before the race starts, and he said, he goes, I'm only coming back if we win. And then they win, he comes back and he pretends like he's orchestrated the whole thing. He goes, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to ask a few more questions on this, and then we can kind of just talk off the cuff. I appreciate all the discussion
Yeah.
we've been having. I think that people enjoy probably the discussion about disclosure as well. We've got a lot of people that are part of those communities here. One first thing I want to ask that's kind of fundamental, which is, what is breaking the Schwinger limit? Is this what's required in order to, in this frame here, we see begin this singularity that we're seeing?
And if I could say very quickly, for me visually, it's
you
basically.
go first, then I'll go.
Sure.
This is already out there, so I'll give numbers because this is already, as a matter of fact, Eric W. Davis, Dr. Eric W. Davis and Mark Miller speak of this in Frontiers on Propulsion Science, which, by the way, wait, right before we break off into what you have to say, I have to say this. For the glory of mankind and the ability as Homo sapiens sapien to actually say, you know what, we can do this ET tech and we can do better. For that glory and that glory alone, we must learn of new propulsion methods to do away with these oversized action reaction dildos. For lack of a better terms, I'm sick and tired of freaking seeing Starship, whatever you want to call it. I want to see enterprise. I don't want to see, Anyway, I'll just leave it there. Sorry. I sometimes go off the deep end. Yeah.
Sure. If breaking the Schwinger limit, and I say this just for the sake of trying to do my best to translate for those not as scientifically oriented. And please, Brother Sal, tell me if this is not a good way to put it. To me, the Schwinger limit is basically getting a square to spin fast enough to where it eventually becomes a circle. And I'm oversimplifying like crazy, but that's kind of, for those maybe not as
the analogy is beautiful from a spatial temporal geometric structure point of view, and I agree with it in many ways. But I like, in this point of view, since they have given numbers, since Eric W. Davis and Mark Millis have given numbers in Frontiers of Propulsion Science. It's an AIAA compendium. It's a heavy volume, but it's a beautiful book. And I know Eric W. Davis is not exactly, how should I say, a fan of mine, but I can say that in some ways I'm a fan of his. So there you go. So Dr. Davis, if one day you find it in your heart to say maybe this guy is not such a crackpot out. Anyway, so the whole idea is we're talking about energy densities, really energy densities on the order of 10 to the 25 joules per meter cube. That translates, again, if you think of the Poynting vector, the man and Dr. John Brandenburg knows the essential importance of the Poynting vector. The Brandenburg-Murad equations of GEM theory are very interesting. They should be looked into. And I believe Dr. Brandenburg will one day also be hailed as a hero of alternative, quote unquote, will become propulsion science, advanced propulsion. Let's not call it alternative. Let's call it advanced propulsion science. There you go. So the whole idea being the magnitude of your Poynting vector would be on the order of speed of light times epsilon zero, the electric field strength squared. Okay? So basically, your electromagnetic energy flux that talks to that energy density I gave before, it's on the order of 10 to the 33 watts per meter square. I ask you, do you think that's easy to do in lab, especially in someone's garage?
No.
Exactly. Not using an electrically charged system. But there are ways. There are ways. Again, where there's a will, there's a way. There are no conditions. Where there's a will, there's a way. There are no impossibilities. There are no physical impossibilities, just conditional possibilities. The trick, as you well know, Dr. Rossi, the trick is to find that engineering condition whereupon you can actually do this in the garage. But I strongly advise against it,
Right.
because I think you will find a team of experts that are ready to, how should I say, put an end to your experimentation.
That's funny. That was my next question, which was what would it take to reproduce this privately, and how quickly would the government come down on us? So it sounds like you just answered that question.
I'm just going to be very open. This is one of the ways that the way that I practically got noticed was because I did exactly what Brother Sal said about two and a half years ago. And I know this is going to sound crazy to some people, but they can pick up gravitational waves. They have sensors.
Of course they can. Of course they can.
Yeah.
And thank God for it. Could you imagine the enemy on our territory engaging in anything else but a tactical device? Forget that. There are other ways to achieve great harm. Thank God they have ways of detection.
Yes.
Listen to me. We must be on the side of the good guys. Enough. And that's why I'm saying E cubed. We must not educate and in any way enlighten the enemy. General, no numbers, and for goodness sake, don't try this in your garage.
Right. I say that. Yeah.
Who knows? You know what I'm saying.
No,
we don't want anything to go wrong, right? And accidentally do something that we're not trying to do.
There are certain things I won't say here publicly, but I'm certain Brother Sal and Brother Ashton, I know they know for a fact, but yeah, there's certain things where if certain things went the wrong way, I wouldn't be here. I'm just being very honest. Yeah. So the other thing, if I could point out very quickly from the science perspective, quickly for your audience, Ashton, is that we have to realize as well from the theory side, just the theory with no numbers or anything. When we look at the pointing vector, is it possible maybe that the potential for the pointing vector is maybe infinite? Because when you see some of these textbooks that talk about, for example, certain things like, the magnitude of a potential, for example, both the potential
if it's not the electric and the magnetic field that matter, but what gives rise to those? And you know what I'm
I do, yeah.
Scalar potentials itself. This is the genius of Aharonov Bohm.
Yes.
Again, this is where Rovelli is going great. And Dr. Rovelli, if you ever listen to this, keep on going, brother. But be very careful, because certain theoretical things could be put into practice by very nefarious agents.
Yeah.
We have to watch out, brother. We have to watch out, because there are a lot of people who want to take the easy path, and the easy path is always toward destruction. It is extremely hard to create. It is very simple to destroy.
When we talk about macroscopic quantum coherence, that's particles making love. When the particles when the particles fight, like I said on your show, Ashton, when the particles fight, they create what we call explosions, and that's the thing we don't want to do, basically. Yeah.
Harmonious resonance. Remember what Tesla was able to do in his freaking apartment using what? An acoustic? Hydraulically. This is a pneumatic device. Oscillator. Oh my goodness. He had to basically break it down, and this thing was about yay big.
You said,
what he was about to create?
Pneumatic?
It was pneumatic. It was air driven. Look up what I'm talking about.
Did you hear my rant on Ashton's thing with the pneumatic, the back end? Yeah.
Brother, if you know what you're doing, you can do marvelous. Put it this way, a pencil can kill you if you know where to put it.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
What I would say, if Jeremy's out there, we've been talking about trying to do experiments. Sounds like theoretically it can get done, but we should be very careful if we do that, and very careful what we.
Well, I wanted to actually ask Sal, and this is also for everybody watching live too. I would love your opinion, Brother Sal, on the how do we, and I'm not saying I have the answer too, it's very hard. How do we make scientific progress and publish in papers so others can see without you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the problem.
This between you and I.
Yeah.
And advances of this nature. That's why I keep everything I do theoretical. You will never. You think I don't have experimental know-how? Who do you think put together the high energy electromagnetic field generator they ran? And trust me, that team, and we're talking about 15 people tops.
Right.
They are so smart. A lot of them just out of college. There was one guy, I will not name names, but this guy is amazing. And put it this way, his last name is the name of a great, great, great actor that I love. So anyway, I'll call him kid because compared to me, he was a kid, very intelligent dude. And every one of them was so interested. But again, all we could do is get a 10 to the minus 8 Coulomb because it's not about solid electrically charged systems, as you well know. It's about other systems and other things. So I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
But again, please do not try this in your garage because all you're gonna do, if God forbid, what happens if your neighbor next door is not exactly, how should I say, does not have the love of the nation in mind, but is an agent of a certain foreign entity? Then what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Again, there's no need to enlighten and educate the enemy. We have far too many.
Right.
Far too many. No need for that.
Right. I still have Starbucks could teleport the coffees to me, so I don't have to go pick
it
them up.
It has to be. Could you imagine what Amazon would do? Oh, you know,
shipping's taken care of.
Anyway, you know, you just think about it. It's on your front door. You know, as a matter of fact, you think about it, it's in front of you now. Anyway, yeah.
All of that's why I brought up the purse example for the ladies on Ashton's show, because you know how often, you know, both the men but especially women would love to go and say, oh my gosh, I forgot something at home, and just reach in and they grab it through a portal or something.
That would be absolutely
Somebody was actually offended by that and then made a comment to you, Dave, and said that they said you need to trim your beard.
Oh, I saw that.
I left it up. I didn't remove it, but that was funny.
Dr. Rossi, if it means anything, your beard is absolutely great.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. We love it.
I don't grow mine because even at my age, believe it or not, I have such a fat face. I got zits all over. At my age, can you imagine? So that's what I mean. I'm still an 18-year-old at heart. You know.
But you're what, 45?
Oh,
40?
You just want to be my best friend.
No.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But anyway, no, I'm all bros.
So a couple more questions for you guys, and then we can just kind of shoot the breeze for a few minutes.
Sure.
One that has been asked by somebody who's been a top donator the last couple of days that I feel like it's important. And if you guys don't feel comfortable answering in detail, that's fine. But he wants to know, is energy density achieved by amplifying plasma through a toroidal pattern containment field so that the free electrons resonate with the underlying temporal wave function? Can you guys speak to that at all?
Dude. Okay. Let me go first and then you, Rossi. Okay, please. Again, look at equation 7 in the IEEE Transaction on Plasma Science paper called Plasma Compression Fusion Device. Equation 7 speaks directly to what this gentleman, by the way, very, very erudite, very intelligent man, very highly educated in the physics of things. Let me just leave it there. Brother Rossi, all you now.
Could you repeat the question, Ashton? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, one more time. So what are my questions? There it is. Energy densities, are they achieved by amplifying the plasma through a toroidal pattern containment field so that the free electrons resonate with the underlying temporal wave function? Hopefully I'm saying that correctly.
Maybe. I'm just gonna I apologize.
It's complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, I apologize. It's possible. There might be something there. There might not. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Okay. Sounds good.
When you're talking driving any sort of plasma, especially a cold one, and non-thermal. So we're talking about a plasma whose electrons do not obey a Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. Whenever you drive anything of that nature, far from equilibrium, especially at certain frequencies, what do you think will happen? Especially remember, I asked everyone to read the 1973, it's a short Nobel lecture by Ilya Prigozhin.
Yes.
Chemistry Nobel Prize, non-equilibrium thermodynamics, 1973, called Time, Structure Fluctuations. Read it, and read it very carefully, because this man was a pure genius, and people don't realize the strength of engineering the Prigozhin effect, especially dissipative structures. Remember that, gentlemen. and ladies, dissipative structures. What do
I
you think
would.
about a plasma is? A plasma is a nonlinear medium, especially one that obeys a certain non-Maxwellian. Anyway, I'll leave it
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I would say perhaps to your lovely gentleman there, Ashton, that asked the question, perhaps look into and what I'm the two papers I'm going to mention here. Please read the original copies, not what someone
Yes.
wrote about them. You have to
Yeah.
look at Li and
Always
Yang.
go to the source. Do not.
Right,
Yes, I agree
right,
with you 100%.
right.
Always go to the
Li and Yang, the paper that won them the Nobel Prize in 1957, as well as a paper very difficult to find by E.T. Whitaker from 1903. I would say
two of
look
them.
at
Two
yes,
of
there's
them.
two of them. Yes, yeah, 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 yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That interestingly, yeah.
Isn't it weird how people hardly even know of their existence? Is this weird?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah. And
That's
again, Homo sapiens sapien are extremely creative. Just give us a chance. It doesn't have to be
right,
You guys
right.
ready for the next question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
This is one that I think that just from a investigative standpoint, people want to know is could people survive this event that we've seen in these videos? You know, if you are inside this airplane, are those people going to be able to survive this? Is there a potential where you can have a field around the object that can protect them? And I'm now thinking about Salvatore Pais's patent for transmedium craft and inertial mass
Sorry, Ashton,
reduction.
is the question if they were in that plane or in any
In this
plane?
particular plane here.
Okay.
Or I mean, I guess if we want to speak more hypothetically, you guys can address the question any way you want. I think that, and I want to go ahead at this point as well and extend my condolences to the families. The reason why I do this investigation is because I want to get the real answers for these families that they haven't been given. Whatever that answer is, I don't know. Right.
It's a great loss. A great loss.
And my opinion is too that even upon getting to this point, I think that the chance of survival is pretty low in general, just because of the circumstances that we've uncovered from the investigation. But people still want to know, you know, can you survive this? Now, what I'll preface as well as saying is that I read a few wormhole papers before I even met you guys that said that we don't need exotic matter to create a wormhole, that wormholes are humanly traversable in the sense that the gravitational forces would not kill someone. And that the third one was that you could create a double-sided electromagnetic shell that could allow for an object to safely transport through one without being ripped to shreds. So would you guys agree, I guess, with that concept and those theories?
Yeah.
Look at the latest papers on written by Maldacena on the subject, also Susskind, and also a certain Professor Lisa Randall. Very interesting lady. Very, very intelligent. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah.
One thing I can say in general
Very pretty too. All right.
One thing I can say in general is that you can be from the inside of the craft. I mean, people talk about, you know, these craft having all these strong G forces and all of that. Mm-hmm. It's of my opinion that you don't experience any of that from the inside. Now, with that said, I say that carefully because it also depends on it might depend on the outline of the craft. And that's why it's hard for me to say about the plane in particular. I would, not to put him on the spot, but I would rather have Brother Sal maybe see if hypothetically, Sal, would that be survivable in that plane, or would you need more protective coating?
Please remember that at the bottom of all this, we talk about human life and we talk about families that have been greatly impacted by this. If God forbid anybody that was related to would have been on that plane, I would not even be able to stomach listening to this podcast. I will tell you the truth. No matter how interesting the physics may be, because it's a human condition, man.
Yeah.
These are emotions so I cannot comment.
Fair.
My thoughts are my own. Just remember one thing, exactly what Brother Ashton said. God is love. God is love. That's what made St. Augustine so incredibly awesome. I love St. Augustine, not just because he said what he said about time, but remember, God is love. There's no need to comment further.
That's fine. I think I agree with that. Now let's go into something that's a little bit more less controversial, which is around the technology in terms of getting it out there. I think that this is the big question, the discussion that needs to be had, which is how do we get this out there? What type of treaty or international agreement do you guys think would be necessary in order to safely deploy this type of technology for just say the energy purposes? And could it be protected?
Let me take this.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt. Okay, let me take this. You remember, I think in your first interview, I brought up the idea of weaponization of the physicist, how you bring them over in a special room whereupon, let's call it, let's not use the E word, very strong. Let's call it adversary, potential friend of, you just sit him down, you show him certain things, okay? His physicist looks it over, your physicist talks over, goes on, blah, blah. Eventually, again, the physicist, their physicist, turns to the commander salutes, goes outside, the political representative comes in, and all of a sudden we have peace on earth. This is what I'm talking about. An era, an epoch of deterrence is feasible by basically bringing the adversary in on these things and actually saying, look, we either destroy each other or together we build a better world. Because I will tell you that I am 100% sure, and I do not need anybody out there. I don't need well, I will not name names, but I don't need them for them to let me know that it's possible the Earth has enemies out there in intergalactic space. Because I'll tell you right off the bat, this so-called third rock from the sun, it is such a beautiful place, natural resources. We have so many things. You think the apple of the eye has not, put it this way, sensed a certain eye of Sauron, all of a sudden turning toward us and say, whoa, I want that. So that's what I'm saying. Only by coming together will we be able to stop what I think is, if not on the way, already here in some shape or form, or God forbid. Yeah, I don't want to make it too bleak, so I'll just leave it there.
To answer the from my perspective, sort of adding to what Sal was saying, is I'm reminded of the scene in Oppenheimer, the recent film where Oppenheimer goes to Einstein, and there was at one. I'm not spoiling this for anyone's, just a heads up. There was at one point a calculation made by Edward Teller, which indicated that perhaps when they set off the bomb, even during the atomic bomb during testing, they would cause a chain reaction that would ignite the atmosphere. So what Oppenheimer did was he saw Teller's equations and he said, "Holy shit, this may happen." So what he did was he goes, "I'm going to speak to the one person in this field of physics I disagree with the most, which is Einstein, to get which is the best thing. If for example, if Sal and I disagreed, I actually want to work with Sal more because we disagree." But anyways, Oppenheimer goes to Einstein and says, "What do we do? Like, what do we do about this?" Einstein says, "If this is true, the chain reaction," he goes, "you stop now and you show the Nazis, and so both of you don't destroy the world, basically." Now, yeah. I don't mean
truly,
to be bleak,
we either come together or we shall definitely perish apart.
Yeah.
And I will tell you right off the bat, I have a feeling that Earth has far more dangerous enemies than we have on it.
Right.
That's my opinion.
I agree.
Just an instinct, a little birdie in my head.
And I don't mean to be so conspiratorial, but what if maybe some of these adversaries are right in front of us and we don't know it? It's
God forbid, brother.
Yeah.
And that's funny. I did not expect you guys to have those opinions, although I mean I didn't know exactly what your opinions would be. My opinion
why they say ignorance is bliss.
If I could,
sometimes it's better to be stupid. I'll tell you the truth.
Here's honestly that Ashton, I say this to you in your audience, and I'm certain I don't need Sal doesn't need to hear this because he knows better than me. From where I stand, from where
you and I are equal footing. Remember, I really mean what I say. You and I have the same pedigree. That's why I call you Dr. Rossi. I believe from an academic standpoint, I have that ability. Now, whether it's true or not, I leave it to my betters. But I think of you as doctoral level. I think you would have survived a certain PhD qualifying event that makes people cry, makes grown people cry.
I appreciate
the PhD qualifier. Everybody should go through it one time in your lifetime to see what how should I say, it puts you in your place.
Yes, right. Very much. Well, one of the things, Ashton, is I wanted to say, and forgive me to the audience if this sounds like a bleak sort of answer, but one of the reasons I think Brother Sal and I are speaking publicly like this is because we're so frustrated with what we're seeing behind the scenes. And I say that carefully, but this is where it's a tough thing. I'm of the view, humbly, I don't think any of this stuff for now is going to come out and everything's going to be happy and everyone's going to be fine. I wish, but that's
Have
just
you
my
seen
yeah.
have you seen something recent from someone that I hold in great respect because I know his origins, Senator Chuck Schumer, Charles Schumer.
Yes. Yeah.
They plan, if you look at that amendment,
Yeah.
for the next 25 years. Am I wrong in what I understand? This will never see the light of day. This kind of physics will never ever see the light of day. And trust me, if a certain event in the past that I will not name, but everybody on this stream will know exactly what I'm talking about. If that particular event can basically go from epoch to epoch to epoch, never having been declassified,
Right.
you think this sort of physics will? Just no need to answer that question.
Maybe not to put you on the spot, but maybe one day, Sal, we should do a paper together on the Superforce, a different
I'm trying to work with some now with Dr. Brandenburg. Him and I are trying to come up with something on engineering the Superforce. He knows a lot more people. Again, he's of the physics pedigree. He's a plasma physicist. He's done a lot more in the past. And remember what he said about Mars. Remember Xenon 129.
Yes.
For goodness sake.
Yeah.
If just half of what he's come up with is correct.
Yeah.
You're talking about
not only are we a civilization with amnesia, as a certain person says, but thank God we are a civilization with amnesia.
Perhaps we came from Mars and we destroyed Mars, and now that's where we're at now. That's a theory that I've wondered about a lot. I know that's what you're referring to with Xenon, right? Is the nuclear bombs.
What if this is a sort of prison planet?
Prison planet hypothesis, definitely an interesting one. I think that's why I like talking to you guys, because you're extremely smart and you come to a lot of the same conclusions.
Sometimes I wish I was dumb as
you know what.
A lot of the same stuff that I think about from the last 5 years.
I would be a lot happier.
If I could address a couple of comments you guys made as well, and you guys can keep going, I think that one thing is that I try to imagine if people are in there doing these advanced experiments, maybe you guys are some of these as well. I mean, just imagine the mindset of somebody who goes and sees this technology.
I'm so sorry. I have to say this because you, Ashton, you create a beautiful environment for me to say. This is not to anyone in particular. Do you know what it's like to be in a lab working on something, dare I say, magical, and then you leave that lab and then you got to go on in a car or in a plane run by oil and you see everyone? I
think I can relate to it. I've been going through that ontological shock myself, just looking at this as somebody who was just a normal person 4 months ago, right? And then I had this happen to me while I was sitting at the airport, and I'm just looking at everybody staring at their phones, realizing that the world can be a completely different place. Everybody just absorbed in their own little reality. And, this is where I thought of you, Dave, and Sal as well, where it's like, we've got people out there that are looking at the technology because they can change the world. And then they've got to go back to their normal life in reverse. This is part of the reason why I don't think I can go back to a normal life after this either. It's it's so much to take in, right? And so much to think about. What are the implications?
Brothers, let me have your take on this. I'm going to put something out. There's something that's being said a lot lately that bothers me somewhat. See if you resonate with what I have to say. They keep on saying that data is the new oil. I believe back in the 18th century, or rather 19th century, at the cusp of, at the transition thereof, they used to say that oil, or rather, yes, oil is the new coal. Do you see the transference? Because I see alternative energy being the new oil, not data. You see what I mean? It's as if on purpose we're being derailed.
Yes.
Anyway,
I want, if I could say as well, one of the things I find so interesting is when you look at that, it's almost, we're seeing, for example, I'm in Canada right now, and in Canada, they're trying, there's a business model some companies are trying where, for example, you buy the car, but you rent the battery like a Netflix subscription, and you can never own the battery. And this is interesting because this can go very good and also very bad, in my opinion. It's very, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. The idea that everything is like a Netflix subscription, for me personally, I don't know, especially when you look at, and I brought this up before, but it makes one wonder. Before World War One, we see these images, the ones that haven't been edited, World War Two and even before, of these pneumatic forms of transportation. And it makes you think, where the hell is that today? Like, it really makes you think, and I say that carefully, but people were sending messages, and you could see these old paintings and even schematics of, they put their cat in a tube, and this is just compressed air for transportation. So it makes you think, and even that's not even talking about potential anti-gravity and all these other beautiful things, just compressed air. Like, yeah.
You could do a lot, for example, with sound. As
Yeah.
something that you said in your podcast with Ashton, immediate at that point in time, when you said, what if the phonon is a spin tube part? It spoke, I mean, acoustic levitation. Again, you are of a certain mindset, sir. I'm not kidding. If I wore a hat, I would take it off for you. And that's why I call you Dr. Rossi. I don't say that to be funny.
Well,
I don't
Sal,
say that.
I want to
really
thank you. I want to thank you so much,
but
Sal.
a person's pedigree, a person's origins mean nothing if what they have achieved, it's what they have achieved, the level of intelligence, the level of intellect they have been able to achieve, that should matter. It's something that I hear Ashton say a lot, that it's not who you are, it's what you have to say that matters.
I would take someone, if I'm hiring employees, I would take someone with heart over someone with 10 degrees. That's just me. But
so would
yeah.
I, sir. So
yeah. Well, Sal, one thing I want to say quickly. First off, thank you a million times over. But for me, it was very simple. I went on Google and I look and I go, what is a phonon? What spin is it? And it says, Google says it's a spin 0. And that made no sense to me at all. No. I said, what the hell is this? And
I mean, how can the vibration of a crystal lattice, do you know who could settle all this? And I'm pretty sure in some lab somewhere, maybe just theory, somewhere, Professor Wilczek is doing some unbelievable work. Professor Wilczek, if you ever listen to this, if you ever hear of this, if someone says you got to look at this, whatever you're doing, I wish I was involved with. And Dr. Rossi here was involved with, and Ashton was involved with, because we really belong in that world, brother. We really do.
Yeah, a couple more comments I want to make. I think we can start to wind it down, but I know we will definitely talk again, and you guys are welcome back on Hard Truths anytime you want. I do want to say a couple of things too, just my own opinions on a couple of things, which is I don't think the government will ever give us disclosure, like you guys mentioned with Chuck Schumer and the amendment going through there. The time frame for this stuff happening, it's never going to happen. I think they may think that it's national security. It's got to be forced by our hand. And the other thing I want to say is if I was president, I would be seeking peace with every country, even our enemies, because when I look at this technology, as you guys mentioned, I think the ultimate answer for how we get this information out there is we have to have peace amongst human race entirely, because otherwise
there's no need for anyone to go hungry.
Yeah, there's no need for to be hungry. There's no need for anyone to be homeless. There's no reason why we should have wars and be fighting amongst one another, which are just for money. Like this, we should end this, and we should be looking globally. I want to just read part of JFK's moon speech, just a few lines from it for everybody right now. And he says, "But why some say the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago fly to the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and the other things, because not because they are easy, but because they are hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure that man has ever gone." I think about that almost every day with respect to this technology, and why I think he was a visionary at his time and saw what the world would look like 100 years from then.
If he was allowed to do what he wanted to do, I think everything would be different, in my opinion. That's my opinion. He was going to do so, yeah. Yeah, I completely. It's sort of like the quote from Equalizer #2 when the young kid asks Denzel Washington, "Why me? Why me?" And he goes, "Why not you?" And
Exactly.
that's the way I see it. Why
Well
You
said.
not?
know, if I ever, if I was ever asked, would you like to live in a parallel reality? Do you know which one I would choose? One in which JFK is still alive.
Me
Mm,
too.
mm.
And that
Anyway,
goes to one point that people had in the chat, which is about time travel in general. And I think that you can't
Sure.
break causality. But if we're talking about string theory, which is what Salvatore Pais is talking about just now, is that there may be alternate realities and alternate timelines, right? So we can't really rule anything out, especially when we're dealing with
so
what appears to be essentially
string
magic,
theory has to
right?
be looked into again. Please, someone out there, the great minds. We're talking about Witten. We're talking about Strominger. We're talking about Gross. We're talking about Wilczek. We're talking about Green. We're talking about Kaku. Why not? Okay, fine. God equation, fine. Have it your way. If that's what it takes, fine. Please look into this superforce thing. Look into it and see whether you can adapt it to your ideas, because I think this may crack it. We may actually be at the cusp of a third revolution in strings, and strings may actually be the final ultimate theory. And I'm sorry, Dr. Weinstein, I know what you think of strings, but let's give strings another go. It might just be, in Weinberg's own words, dreams of a final theory. Anyway,
If I could say quickly,
Yep.
Ashton, with regards to the causality comment, I would revisit that in terms of the notion of reordering causality via entropy. And to give a practical example very quickly, remember that case many months ago, maybe you guys heard about it or not, where it was some family claimed there were aliens in the backyard and they heard all these footsteps, and in Las Vegas, I think it was. What if, I'm not saying this is what happened, but what if when they claimed they heard footsteps, but it sounded like thousands of footsteps, what if that was just the footsteps of two beings, let's say, but the family was experiencing those events all at once? And so they heard all of the footsteps that otherwise would have been linear, step forward, step forward, step forward, but they heard all of it at once in one sort of causal notion. It makes you think about maybe you can reorder the arrangement of things, for example.
I think my and this is crazy ass speculation. This is beyond speculation. So please, guys, if the great ones will ever, which I doubt, but if they do, you never know. Sometimes someday Strominger, Gross, Witten, Wilczek again will listen to this
Mm.
podcast. What if our understanding of reality is completely, how should I say, infantile?
Mm-hmm.
What if our senses are not truly woken up to the possibilities of true existence? What, for example, there's one incident that there's one thing that in my mind. Have you ever heard of the jinn?
Yes.
DJINN.
Yes.
In Islam, they're thought of as quasi demonic, but not quite. They were the first. They were the first brought forth by God. They were the first created before us,
Right.
before humans. The jinn supposedly were creatures of smoke and fire. Doesn't that sound like plasma to you? Anyway,
I
I'll just leave it there. They're things we must be open to.
yes.
But
The
we understand as supernatural.
Right. Okay. I would love to. You
Just,
said it perfectly. I just want to give one more point to what Sal said and also to the whole concept of causality, Ashton. So
Yeah.
I just drew on a paper here, we view time as, linear. So if we wake up, we have breakfast, we go to work. Now, what if we took those same processes, but in a circular sense, you went to work before you had breakfast? You see what I'm saying? And then,
Oh, I get it.
so it makes, yeah.
did you see Geometric Unity by Dr. Eric Weinstein?
Yes, yes, yes.
The idea of multiple temporal dimensions?
Temporal dimension. Yes, yes, yep,
Yeah. And
yep.
I
Now,
think,
what
go ahead.
wouldn't it be a beautiful thing if all this could? I don't want to give up on strings. I think somebody should look into seeing how Superforce can bring us out of this lull.
Would you say, Sal, the Superforce? Would you say the Superforce is a semi-classical unification of string?
This is why, yes.
Yeah.
Why would the Planck force? Why would the Planck force? Why would the Planck force, something that does not have H bar in it, reside in the theory of the great Albert Einstein? We talk about the gravitation, the G sub mu nu equals, right, 1 divided by superforce times T sub mu nu. Right. Take it on the other side as a linear operator. Why is it saying? Why is it saying that it is possible? It is possible that the superforce acting on a spatial temporal geometric local structure give rise to energy density, hence matter. Could we 3D print under certain condition stuff?
Bohmian mechanics.
Do you understand when I'm talking about materialization, dematerialization? Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Maybe and it talks to the Higgs field. But anyway, yeah, just leave it
through polarization operators and yeah.
So yeah, I want to say on the time thing as well. I put in the chat the egg, which is I think Andy Weir is the one who made this video, and that video I think describes time in the same way that Dave Rossi just did just now, Brother Dave did, which is a beautiful concept that we only experience it as linear because that's how our minds process time moving forward. But there's no reason why someone looking from the outside from another dimension couldn't see it flowing in other directions or completely stopped entirely. So I think that if people want to understand it better, watch that video I put in the chat. I think it really explains it pretty well.
It speaks to the one electron universe theory and the whole notion of Feynman and Wheeler talking about how a positron is really an electron going. But yeah, that's and then that brings me to the film Tenet by Christopher Nolan, how we may be moving forward, but we see the environment is backwards, but from the environment there going forward, we're back. Yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, I think we're going to, slow this one down here now and bring it to an end. But I want to give you guys each an opportunity to plug anything you want to plug. We'll start with Salvatore Pais, Brother Pais here. Anything that you want to plug for the chat and for the people watching?
I just want to say, please, guys, look very carefully at what Ashton has to say about the incident. I think this may be the closest thing we've ever had to disclosure. We should not go the way of naysayers. I will not name names, but you know who I'm talking about, a certain gang of hyenas, but let's just leave it at that. And how should I say? There's far more important stuff to natural phenomena than derision. Let's give it a chance. Let's look at it all of a sudden in a serious modality. Could this be it? Okay. So this number one, don't forget, Demystify Psi, podcast with Nasty and Shiloh, great guys, doctors, Dr. Rossi, doctors, both Nasty and don't forget Alien Scientists, don't forget Jeremy Riss, don't forget Jay Anderson, okay? Jay Anderson, Project Unity, don't forget Theory of Everything with Kurt Mongol. He's doing some incredible, oh my goodness. I wish I was on it again too, but I think Brother J. Mongol forgot about me. Anyway, it is what it is. But the whole idea is this: look into these things and don't dismiss them.
Yeah.
Don't dismiss them.
Yeah.
Think of how could this be possible? If it is possible, why? Why was it done? Because that speaks to the great heroism of this certain lieutenant commander that I will not name, which is another, right up there with Alexander Grush, Coldheart, the whole deal, Putov, all these are heroes. Davis, yes, I can't believe I'm saying it. Why not? And come to think of it, even Safari, in his own crazy Wolfman way. And Jack, please, come on, man. If anything, let's share the Superforce. But I'm sharing with Dr. Brandenburg right now. You got to talk to him. If he shares, fine. But anyway, so in other words, there are ways to get past this individualistic man eat man, dog eat dog. There's no need for that. Together we shall overcome. Unification, not polarization. This is the only thing that will save our godly nation. Otherwise, gentlemen, it's over. It is over. The enemy has us in the crosshairs. And I am afraid that unlike a certain Commodore Perry, who said those immortal words, "We have met the enemy and he is ours," this may not be so this time around. That's all. Thank you very much, Ashton, for this tremendous opportunity. Thank you.
Well, awesome. Thank you. That was beautiful, Sal. One thing I can say to the audience, maybe on a little bit more of a technical side, is for those interested, look into the possibility that electricity and magnetism may be two different expressions of the same force. And if we sort of view that sort of in a philosophical transitioning into a physical sense, we may be able to see that some like the accessing the super force.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, Dr. Rossi, sorry to interrupt.
No.
Beautiful talk. I just got to say again, senility. Somebody should look in the one thing in Maxwell's equations that's already got me all, Anyway, up in the twist, it's that grad dot B equals 0. The whole idea that there's no such thing as magnetic monopoles. But remember what Dirac said.
Yeah.
What if that grad dot B does not equal 0?
What if it's a different zero than what if it's a different zero than the one we're used to being taught?
After all, the great Cantor said there are many sets of infinities. Why not certain zeros that are not exactly 0? Right. Just leave it there. But yeah, very interesting. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm done.
No problem.
Sorry, Ashton. Okay.
You're fine.
I would like to leave your audience with one thought, which is, and this may sound out there to some people, but what if this goes all the way back to Pythagoras' theorem in terms of understanding this? What if there was an understanding that Pythagoras had that when we see I'm speaking to quadrupole unification, Sal, and that geometrically, what if, for example, we think just basically looking at things in a different way? I'm not saying they are, but what if, for example, those Van de Graaff generators, when you touch the capacitor and your hair goes up, what if what we call lightning strikes are large versions of when you pulse a Van de Graaff generator, as we see if we start to think of things like this, perhaps as people see you get a voltmeter and you put it into the ground and there's suddenly you get current and all that. What if we start to view things as so in our face that it may work, that maybe something does? And that's what I would like to leave everybody with.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, Dave Rossi is the Generation Z podcast. So make sure you guys check that out. Make sure you follow him on Twitter as well. Salvatore Pais avoids social media. So you have to just get in touch with him directly.
Tim Ventura.
Oh, yeah. Tim's great.
Yeah. Oh, my God. He's had, come on, man. Lord Martin Rees. Oh, my God. If I was in the same room with him, I think I'd lose it. I'd talk all kinds of speculation nonsense. He'd start laughing and say, goodness, where did you get your degree from?
If I could say one more thing for those interested, because I would love to do sometime a space either with Ashton or whoever, but at Podcast Z, no spaces, no capitals, Z spelled ZED, on Twitter for anyone that's interested. And also phasehelix.com is the name of my company if anyone's interested, consulting to anything in that regard with regards to the physics in certain areas. And that's about it. I want to thank you so much, Ashton, for doing this, brother.
Yeah, no, highly recommend both these guys. If you guys are trying to get any opinions, any contract work, reach out to these guys 100%. This is Ashton Four Orbs here of the Hard Truths podcast.
I work for the government.
Yeah,
only Rossi. Yes. Yeah, you don't go.
The only way you reach out to me is through a certain gentleman in public affairs office at a certain office that works for the Navy. Thank you.
Right.
So yeah, just to close it out then, this is Ashton Four Orbs, and this is the Hard Truths podcast, where we bring you the hard truths, the things that people have a hard time understanding to be real.